My career sucks.
Sex just isn't the same.
What's my purpose?
Where did this fat come from?
My relationship is killing me.
I'll never be happy.
My debt is piling up. I'll never find love. Why can't I be like other gay guys? Hey guys, it's time to get a grip, stop whining, make a bold move, and do something amazing with your 40-plus gay life. Let's get to the show with your Tell It Like It Is host, Rick Clemons, who does his best to never act like a dick or a diva unless you act like one first.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of 40 Plus Gay Men Gay Talk. And yes, we are going to talk about some more stuff that we rarely talk about, but should be talking about. And we're going to incorporate some interesting twists here with one of my best buddies. He's become a good friend and a podcast guest over and over. I did his retreat back in March. His name is Court Vox. I'll let him kind of tell you all the beautiful things he does, but he's just a good guy overall. And he really helps you release out of your erotic self and step deeper into like, oh, I've been putting this stuff on the back burner, or embracing what it looks like to be more in your erotic self. And today we thought we'd kind of talk about some stuff that's happening in the planet and the world that may be making our erotic selves feel like it's 9, 10, 12, 50 down the list, and how that can actually prevent us from living our most fullest and richest lives. And I want to explore something that I got to witness at his retreat. We won't tell all the secrets because you need to go to the retreats, but that's really become more of his work and practice to helping people really embrace themselves. So welcome, buddy. Good to see you.
Oh, thank you so much for that. It feels so good to be with you and be back on the podcast.
Yeah. And for those of you on YouTube watching this, yes, we both got the memo to wear black today. So
I can't decide if mine's blue or black. So
yeah, well, I was looking at a kind of a darker blue one. And I'm like, I bet Court's going to wear black. So I'll wear black so that we can be, the black bitches today. But no, we're good. We're good black bitches. Like I'm a good black witch. So
yeah.
Oh, so there's a lot going on the planet right now. I mean, especially, let's just go there, especially here in our lovely little world of the United States. And it's heavy. Let's just be honest. It's heavy. And too often I feel like that heaviness prevents us from stepping in. And you posted something not long ago about this. That's why I said, okay, let's go here. Talk to us about like how this is impacting you, your work in helping people step into their most beautiful and erotic self. What's some of the stuff you're feeling right now, Court?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I do group events and I do private events, it's always this tricky dance that I sit with because, my work is somatic, my work is embodied, and it's really hard to speak about moving into erotic spaces when you're not addressing things that are happening in the world that feel icky. It's sort of like looking at the sun and you're like, God, it's beautiful today. And God, it's beautiful. And like, why does it smell like shit? No, but it's beautiful. Like this clouds are beautiful and it's beautiful. And all we have to do is look down and notice that we're stepping in shit, right? And it's like, oh, we just wipe off my shoe and move on.
Right.
But I think, without addressing some of these like low level hums that are, and not even low level anymore. It's just everywhere. Every time you open the Instagram or Facebook or the news, it's just we're bombarded with things that are really meant. And I want to be clear about that. These things are really meant and designed to overwhelm us to a place where we actually just give up. And so I think that's important to name is that, it's not frivolous to have a pleasure practice. It is not frivolous to kind of prioritize pleasure and prioritize your erotic self. And when I say erotic self, I mean your creative outlets, the things that bring you joy, the things that bring you life force energy. Because if you're always like bogged down with what's going over here, they're winning. They're winning.
Absolutely.
And there are practitioners that are political and then ones that really try to stay out of it. I think it's really challenging for me to stay out of politics when so much of the politics in this given moment are around our bodies, like really controlling our bodies, and not just from a physical perspective, but also from an emotional and from a mental perspective. And again, I think it's like more important than ever not to kind of overlook what's happening, but actually to
Right.
feel, right?
Hmm.
To feel like this stuff has been happening for a really long time.
Yes.
And we're actually aware of it now. And
Hmm.
maybe aware of it in a different way than we have been before because it's actually in our face all the time. And so I think it's important for us as Westerners, as white people, as Americans, or should I say United States Americans, to really look at the impact that we've had as citizens, but as a country as a whole, as a nation, on the rest of the world. And now it's like we can't unsee, we can't unknow what we know. And how do we move from this place moving forward? And it's tricky. It's tricky because,
It's very tricky.
we have we have lives that we're trying to live. We're trying to feed our families. We're trying to grow our businesses. We're trying to survive. And I think that there's this phrase and this saying of when animals feel safe, they play.
Mm.
And we are also animals. And
Yes.
in times of abundance and prosperity, that's when, creativity and art and music tend to flow the most. Um, but it also has come usually from places of hardship, right? We've come out of long periods or periods of sadness and grief and darkness coming into these spaces of abundance. And so I think it's just a matter of allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling in these
Hmm.
moments and also continuing to pursue things that bring you pleasure and joy.
Yeah.
It's a,
Continuing to play. I think
yeah,
that's a really
it's
good way
like
to look at it.
holding all of the things at once.
Hmm.
It's not like, well, we're choosing this or this. It's like
Right.
we have to learn to be able to hold multiple things.
Hmm. Well, George and I, for those of you listening, George is my husband. I think most of you know that. We happened to be in LA over the weekend and went to a show at the Amundsen. And we came out during intermission and it was dark and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful evening out in downtown LA. And there was one angle from the Amundsen Theater. Those of you who've been there know there's the Mark Taper Forum. There was one angle of the round Mark Taper Forum that the moon was sitting right between all the arches and everything, just barely. And I was like, this is what I mean, just talking about it, I'm getting little tingles again. This is why I want to go celebrate art because I got to be at this show that was amazing. We saw a parade which addresses a lot of similar kind of stuff we're talking about here. But just to have that, and without the arts, I may not have gotten to experience that whole thing. I may not have felt that creative boost. And I've been, I told Court, so I'll just bring it up now. I told him before we came on to record this that I had been at Court's retreat back in March. Amazing experience. I'm not just saying that, but he did pay me $500 to say that. So let's just go there. I'm kidding, team. It was an amazing experience. I mean,
You're worth more
Court,
than that, Rick. You're worth more than
well,
that.
but here's the thing, Court, no pun intended, Court pulled some stuff out of me that was amazing and he pushed me to my limits. And one of the things that he kept saying was let go. And I realized that in this world that's happening right now, I have started clenching more and not like clenching my asshole, boys. Okay, let's go there. Well, maybe a little, but clenching more. Like there's a hold on right now, and there's a not releasing and having pleasure, and I'm realizing that's not healthy for me. I have to start having fun again. I have to I got out on my bike more recently. I've been working towards getting more sexual in my relationship, all these sort of things, because I can't let what's happening shut, as you said so beautifully, my erotic self down, whether that's erotic going to be creative or going to shows or in the bedroom, being in my erotic self, loving being on my bike out in nature. And I want to encourage everybody listening that what Court's talking about here is all of us opening up to what can be. And it's hard. It's really hard. So for those who are kind of clenching like me, Court, what would you, without giving away some beautiful talents that you have when you do your retreats, what's one way to maybe release, let go of the clench, like just open up to, okay, there's a lot of heaviness, but how can I get past that and step back into my erotic self?
I think there's a couple things that we can do that I feel fairly like low-hanging fruit. I think The first one would be to have a pleasure practice for yourself. And when I say that, I mean kind of putting porn aside, putting the visuals aside, allowing yourself to be present with your movement and your sound and your bring toys and sensations that you want to be part of your practice, and really like be curious about where your pleasure leads you. Right? I just want to name that, porn is part of my masturbation practice. But when I'm really wanting to like recenter and recalibrate my own erotic body and self, I do something that I refer to as a mindful erotic practice, which is I set aside an hour, which is my practice. You might do 15 minutes or 30, whatever feels like maybe a little bit of a stretch for you. Um, and choose the sensation toys you want a part of this. Choose the music, the soundtrack, like really create your own pleasure practice. This is like pleasure planning. And
Mm-hmm.
really spend time with noticing what's present for you in the moment. It might be stretching, it might be light caresses, it might be moaning, it might be releasing tension in your jaw. And there's going to be moments where you're like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? And that is like our helicopter monkey mind coming in
Mm-hmm.
and really being friendly with that and being like, okay, I hear you. And we're going to come back to where do I feel like I would like to bring pleasure into myself, into my body, and just allowing that to be a practice for yourself. Another one is incorporating water into your day. Of
Mm-hmm.
We have a phrase that says water in, water out, water in, water on, water out. So drinking lots of water, making sure you pee, and also at the end of your day before you go to bed, like washing and allowing that to be more of a ritual of I'm kind of being intentional about cleaning myself from all of the stuff that I've brought in today.
Love that.
I think a last one, which, is something that people resist so much, but be of service. Be
Mm.
of service to someone or organization or something that is outside of yourself, that's not about your personal growth, that's not about your expansion. It's actually like showing up for someone else, whether that's at a food bank or showing up to take somebody to the hospital or take them to lunch when they're not feeling well, or whatever that is of being of service to someone, making time for someone that needs somebody to listen, um, allowing yourself to be of service to others, I think is also something that we can really delve into and practice.
It's ironic that you brought that last piece in. I've been doing a lot of Peloton work just at home because I'm like, it's just easy. I don't have to leave the house, which is me like, okay, I'm clenching again. I do have a gym membership, but I love doing the Peloton workouts actually almost more than going to the gym these days.
Oh,
But this morning I realized, oh crap, mom's birthday is next Monday. I haven't got a card. So I'm like, okay, go to the gym because the CVS will be open after you go to the gym. So there was a whole master plan behind this, right? I came out of CVS after getting the card, and there was a unhoused individual guy walking with his cart, grocery cart full of stuff and everything. And I said, "Good morning. How are you today?" And he stopped and he just looked at me. He goes, "Are you talking to me?" I'm like, "Yeah. How are you doing today?" He goes, "Oh, I got a cup of coffee. Starbucks gave me a cup of coffee. And then I found these bottles in the trash can over there. That's going to give me a couple of bucks." I said, "That sounds like you're having a really good start to your day." And we had like this 3 or 4 minute conversation, and it lit him up so much. And it wasn't because, okay, I'm going to give him money, which I did.
right.
But I thought, how many of us just here, have a good day, here's some money, but connecting. And you could just see how lit up he was by this guy's actually talking to me. He's not like, here's the variable, hand some money to me. And as I walked away from handing him money, he goes, "Hey, buddy, thanks for talking to me." It,
Mm,
it filled my heart. Okay. So I didn't do this. I'm not sharing this to grandstand, guys. It's like this just tied so nicely into what Court just said. I felt invigorated because I went to the gym like, okay, it's another day at the gym. you know, my whole attitude and everything changed because I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm blessed to have a good job. I'm blessed to get to do the work that I do for my private clients. I have so many beautiful blessings, but that was the highlight of my day. Well,
Yeah.
and now getting to do this, record this, podcast with Court, of course. But I think all those things are so critical. The self pleasure one is something I've really leaned into, Court, since your retreat. I mean, I've always loved a great jerk off session. I love masturbating. That's one of my favorite things. But one of the things you taught me at the retreat was the noise, to release it
Okay.
and make the noise and feel that, thing. And I remember right after I came back and I was in a beautiful, sensual erotic session with my husband. And I started making these noises. And he's like, oh, this is new, right? I have found just that piece, whether I'm solo or in company with others, is a whole new plane for me. It
Mm,
just releases so much because there's this guttural instinct within me.
yeah.
And what I've also found is this weird twist of like when I'm feeling the pressure of the world, like things are going on. I don't read a lot of news these days. I stay tuned in just enough to like, okay. But I find that when something is not setting well with me, that if I go, or, oh,
Yeah.
my center comes right back in because I'm like, okay, you've released that piece. And
Yeah.
I think this is something that a lot of us are missing these days is how do you release? And it
Hmm.
could be a nice, beautiful masturbation session or just touching. I've noticed myself touching myself a whole lot more. Like I just like, feeling my body, my beautiful little, 15 dozen donuts around my waist and all that sort of stuff. But I love that piece. So as you've been doing your retreats, have you sensed this? Because I know you've done a couple since we got together, and there's a couple more coming up, guys. We're going to talk about that. Have you sensed this in the groups? I mean, I sensed it a little bit in our group back in March, and we
Yeah.
were like, we're going to all be really respectful and not go down the quote, political route and all that. But have you kind of seen a heightened sense of this in your groups lately?
It's definitely there, and I invite people to like stay out of the weeds of it and out of discussion really. But
Mm-hmm.
if we can bring it into our more somatic expression, so bringing anger, resentment, sadness, grief, just as much as we do pleasure, um, just bringing all of it, allowing all of it to be there. And sometimes we don't even know what it is, but
Right.
like, anger and grief are such emotions that we are always having to tamp them down, especially anger in men, because it can be so off-putting and frightening for
Mm-hmm.
a man, especially like a big man like you and I, to express anger. It's like automatically like that's dangerous. Put it away.
Scared. Yeah. Put it away.
And and it,
Scared of
and it,
him.
and in that way, it's like, where is it supposed to go? Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like you're saying, of allowing yourself to emote, and so much of what we're talking about is permissioned in erotic spaces, right? These things that we can't really express or explore in day-to-day life, like aggression and sensuality and softness. These are like things that men are constantly playing with in our day-to-day. And yet we're never really allowed fully to go into those places without some form of criticism or judgment. And to be in a space where it's like, bring all of it.
Yep.
Bring all of it and just see what comes up. I'll be, as a practitioner, as a facilitator, I can hold those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a big thing is, okay, I can actually bring my full self here. I
Mm-hmm.
am, I had an experience recently with a body worker where in my practice of the when we offer sexological body work, we're really encouraging people to move and to breathe and to make sound, to make noticings and express desire, make requests, which is such a different experience than just lying kind of prone to and quiet and still to receive. And look, there's beautiful things about that too, but it's really not the practice that I'm, a part of. But what I found was that my body really wanted to move. I really
Yes.
wanted to make sound, and I couldn't because that was not the agreement I had made with this particular massage therapist or body worker. But I was noticing that in my body, I felt like I was as big as a dragon. Like
Mm.
my energetic body, my erotic body could have filled the whole apartment complex. and yet
Mm.
it wasn't welcome. And so there was just sort of this very friendly interaction with it of like, I see you. I know you're there, and this is not the place.
Yeah.
And so much of the time, how much of the time are we in that process, and how much of the time were we not even aware that that's even a conversation to have?
So I'm not going to go deep into this, but I
Okay.
think what you just shared gave me kind of the open doorway. So when Court invited me to come to the retreat, it was like, hey, I want you to experience this. I want you, if we're going to do some partnering together, you can't talk about this without knowing what goes on. I'm like, okay, cool. One of the hardest things as a facilitator who does this work too in different ways is to show up fully present and go, okay, I need to take my facilitator hat off. I just need to be part. So I came fully prepared for that. I resisted at first because I'm like, okay, just keep quiet, let Court do his thing. And I realized I was holding back until the moment that I didn't. We won't go deep into that. But I broke pretty heavy, pretty big. Here's the interesting piece of after that happened. I felt at peace and I felt really open to being part of the group. The ironic thing, and Court doesn't know this either, is on the drive home, I was really processing that one because I had like a 3.5, 4 hour drive home. I realized that so much of what broke there was because of exactly what's going on in the world. Because a lot of what's going on in the world represented that threat that I broke about, and I wasn't feeling safe. And I'm realizing I'm not feeling safe in my world right now, not on my planet. And what a beautiful thing that I've uncovered in that drive home. Like, okay, that's what was really behind this. Yes, there was a specific thing that I brought up around that, but I realized what happened was mirroring what I was actually feeling in the present day state. And there was no threat, guys. I want you to know there was no threat at the retreat. There was nothing that was like a threat, but there was a doorway that was begging to be opened, and that facilitated that doorway to open, which actually had nothing to do with what happened in my past. It just mirrored what was going on in the present world, that I feel the threat from figures, male figures, that are really driving a lot that's going on. And it has been such a huge opening in my heart, I guess, to be able to like, okay, be present with the craziness and chaos of the world and realize I'm safe as long as I realize I keep being present.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to feel safe if I shut down, because then I'm in defense mode.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a really interesting thing, thing you least expect. And I'm so glad for all the rest of the stuff too from the retreat, the erotic, openings and figuring out myself in that space and everything. It opened up such an interesting doorway. Even guys that put me at peace with, I'm more of a man now because I can accept where I am in my journey as a, older gay male, starting to have some of the typical, oh, I don't come like I used to. There's no buckets. It's like maybe a drop, but that's okay because I realized that doesn't define my masculinity. So I know I just opened up a whole lot of stuff there, but I
Yeah.
felt like it really tied to this chaos of the world and helped me come in much more at peace many, many days, because that thing had to be opened and released so I could go, oh, here's the link. Look at there. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I answered some questions for the Daily Mail yesterday, and one of the questions was around, if you could tell people about something they should know about male sexuality, what would it be? Or like, what would you like people to know about male sexuality? And it was just sort of like, it's such a huge question.
Huge.
It's actually the wrong question. And I'll tell
Mm-hmm.
you why. We really in the past we've focused and honed in on like listicles, like 10 ways to have the best
Mm-hmm.
breakup of your life. Like lose weight in 30 days, get that summer body and da 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 da. And what it doesn't acknowledge is the nuance and the differences in where people are in the stages of their life in terms of age. It doesn't acknowledge where they live in the world, their access to specific foods and information and knowledge. It doesn't acknowledge that we have different upbringings and different traumas that have affected our lives. It doesn't acknowledge any of that.
Nope.
And so, how can I say the one thing that I want people to know about male sexuality when
Mhm.
it's just so large, right? It's like we have this phrase in somatic sex education of like, if you know how to touch one body, you know how to touch one body.
Exactly.
And that's kind of acknowledging that like I might learn how to touch you because you share with me how you like to be touched, and I might learn that. And I might my skills actually are around listening. And my other skills, which I would refer to as hard skills, I would say those are like less. Not necessarily less than in terms of hierarchy, but they don't matter if I don't have the other skills. If I'm
Mhm.
not in attunement with you, I'm not listening, I'm not asking thoughtful questions, that's an acknowledgement that I'm just not aware or I don't care. Things like qualities of touch and flogging and rope skills, and should I put into the hard skill category? Those are all wonderful, but without all the other things, they fall a little bit flat. Um, so I think we need to give everybody, not just men, women, all bodies across the board, a little more credit for being more nuanced, for being different. There's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences too.
But I think in the similarities and the differences is where the magic happens. I mean, I'm going to go back to
Yeah.
the retreat, and there was such a wide variety of men present at that retreat, each coming in with their own stories, which is this is what happens at retreats. We all come in with our stories, each coming in with their own desires. I
Yeah.
don't know that anything was needs, because I think needs, there's only certain things in life we need, but the desires and the hunger for what, I mean, I remember saying, when the question was asked, what are you here for? Well, I actually used the word hunger. I said, I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And I'm hungry for connection, hungry for learning, all this sort of stuff, because I've been in such a space of, I do this for so many other people. What is Rick not doing for himself right now?
Right.
And I think the beauty of, you're right, that question they ask you to answer is like, that's just not the right question. I had a men's group chat last night, and it was all for guys who came out later in life. And it was just like, we're just going to have a conversation. I didn't want to put any qualifiers around that because I knew everybody on that call was in a different stage of coming out.
Hmm.
Everybody had different experiences coming out. Everybody is having something currently that they wanted to talk about. If I would have said, and we're going to talk about this one thing and only this one thing, oh my gosh, I probably wouldn't gotten the participation that I did get. And it
Hmm.
kind of sets this interesting tone for, oh, this is all we're going to speak to. I think sometimes those questions, as you said, like, oh, here's the top 10 things, I just did a top 10, like, here, 10 habits gay guys, need to break. But the interesting piece is I'm going to do, I did the count, I'm doing the countdown 10, 9, 8, 7. Well, there's going to be a zero. And number zero is, but the only habit you need to break is the one that you feel like you need to break
Right.
for you.
Yeah.
Because I want to end it with like that kind of weird surprise thing, like, oh, nobody saw that one coming, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because yeah, I can come up with 10 things, but that's just my ideas of 10 things. You could probably come up with 10 things that are completely different. What I love is that you then take this deeper, soulful piece, and then you bring in those hard skills. I know one of the hard skills that you brought into the retreat, and it's become something that you've posted on, social, is the rope work. So why has the rope work for you personally and in the work
Hmm.
become such a prevalent piece of your work at this stage? I mean, I know I witnessed it, and again, guys, I'm not going to tell you everything, but why is it such an interesting and unique piece for you now, Court?
Rope has actually been a through line for my whole time teaching. It was actually what brought me to the work that I'm doing now. In a weird way, I was sort of in this place of discovery and kind of expanding my own erotic palette. And I took a rope class at like a dungeon,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a community class. There was like 10 people in there. And I ended up going a couple times and I needed to practice. And a woman that was there offered to be my rope body to practice on.
Hmm.
And it turns out she was a therapist and she worked predominantly with the nervous system, which, now you hear nervous system all the time. At the time,
Yes.
it was not being talked about like it is now. And she was the one that told me about somatic sex education, sexological body work, which sort of led me on my path of study for the 3 years following. So rope has been like a catalyst for me. Um, and it's been a really big part of my work in the sense that it's playful.
Hmm.
It involves, as I've gotten better at it, and look, I'll tell you that there's people that are way better riggers than I am.
Hmm.
But I think what I try to bring to anything that I do is presence, is attunement, is a level of being with the body that I'm with, at a very kind of acute level of presence.
Hmm.
Rope for me is like a connection point. It's like an extension of my touch, of my hands. Um, you know, it's not just the rope. I'm also using my body quite a bit. It's a tool. It's another toy in my toy box. And I think that, I don't think, what I know is that so many of the men that come to work with me in retreat and in private, they are afraid of rope because of
Hmm.
images that we've seen around bondage. And then when we actually start to play with it or to experience it, it's like, wow, that was really fun. That was
Hmm.
really pleasurable. That brought me to a place that I haven't been before. I want to learn more. I want to not just learn how to be tied, but also learn how to tie.
Yep.
So it's become something that I teach more on retreat, not as like a we're gonna learn all the
Right.
all of this, because my rope journey's been over 7 years, and I still feel like I'm learning more every day. Um, but it's more of like, okay, let's teach you some basics, and there's a lot you can do with a couple foundational pieces you can play with. And then if you want to learn more, go take a class.
Yep.
Take something that's a little more consistent, or study Shibari Study, which is an online school, which is pretty incredible. Um, or go to these classes where they are group settings and meet community and be with people who are enjoying this also. So, rope has become a big part of my practice for sure.
Mm. One of my favorite experiences at the retreat was when I allowed myself to go there, and it was a release, and I know you know that. I almost was begging, like, okay, go ahead.
Please,
It's
please.
I think I said in that moment when you were working with me,
Mhm.
I think I said tie me up, and that I didn't see that coming. To be honest, guys, I was not like, oh yeah, let's go do this. I think again, it's almost like here's this big guy, and I think I've tapped into that piece of myself too. Like I love it when I get to surrender because in so much of my world, here's this big strapping guy. Rick's the leader. Every time I'm in work stuff, oh, let's have Rick do it because he's really good at. I'm so tired of that.
Mhm.
Just let me surrender. Just let me surrender. Let me just let me not have to do this. And it was a beautiful experience. And I was that was probably one of the times throughout the whole retreat that I really felt myself like completely at peace
Mhm.
because I was
Beautiful.
just fully surrendered. And oftentimes, and guys, I'm going to just say this, you don't have to do a rope practice, but man, what happens when you just surrender? You
Mhm.
just surrender to the chaos, not like literally surrender to the chaos of the world, but you surrender to being at peace with it, even though it's tough. Like, okay, I know this is happening, but if I let it continue to take every bit of energy out of me, I
Mhm.
can't get to surrender in peace. And I feel like what Court does in his work is such a beautiful plethora of techniques and teaching on how do we get back to center? How do we get back to ourselves? How do we get back to our own body? Because when we can get into our own body, yes, the chaos of the world can be going on all around us, but we're still with ourselves. We
Yeah.
still are within us. And I think it's one of those things that I would love to see all humans, but especially our beautiful gay, bisexual, male world work more
Yeah.
at, because I think that's one of the things that holds so many of us men, whether you're a gay man, a bisexual man, a trans man. What's interesting is trans men. I see the same stuff. It's so interesting to me. Like they've been waiting so long to step in fully into their embodiment, but yet there is that other side that they've kind of picked up some of the like, oh, okay, here's what masculine men, you know, it's
Yeah.
such an interesting transformation to me. And then they have to work through that as well. But really
Well,
powerful.
I think it's actually deeper than that. And maybe this is a side discussion, but I think, you know, the feminine and misogyny is so deeply rooted in
Mm-hmm.
homophobia and just like homophobia in self. Like we hold those things. And
Yes.
so much of our childhood, I've spoken to so many gay men, including myself, where there has been these pivotal moments where it's been messaged to us that femininity is not safe, right?
Yep.
It's not safe. And so we go kind of more into this survival mode of masking and pretending, kind of putting our feminine sides away. And I would say this is for straight men too, but um, it's rooted in misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
It's rooted in the hatred of women, the hatred of the feminine, and the elevation of masculinity and power. And um, there is work there for all of us to kind of look at some of those scripts and say, what part of those are not mine? And which, how can I reinvigorate, reinvite these parts of myself that were put away when I was 5 years old, 7 years old, 3 years old, and invite them back into play spaces, into exploration spaces, into spaces of expression, whether that's in my movement or my sound or my breath or even in my way of dress. You know, those are those are big questions.
They are big questions.
Yeah.
I'm actually answering one of those big questions. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think by the time this one airs, it could have already happened. So I told Court we're going on a lovely vacation. And one of the theme nights on the riverboat cruise we're going on is purple. Anything purple. Okay. I'm like, I'll just get a purple t-shirt. I'm like, oh, that's kind of boring. Well, then my husband said, I'm going to get some really silky purple pajamas. I'm like, oh. Well, then some friend of ours were on another trip and they had like a pink night, the same cruise, pink night. And one of my friends showed up like in this like lovely little baby doll negligee, pink with little balls and tassels and everything on. I'm like, I think I'll do that. And of course, then my misogyny started showing up like, you're a big guy. You can't find one. I'm on Amazon looking at plus size negligees, all this sort of stuff. And I went through quite a few of them. And then my male masculine energy kept going, no, you don't want to do this. You don't want to make a spectacle of yourself. Well, bitch, I am going to make a spectacle of myself. I am wearing a purple little lingerie with some cute little purple, underwear. And I got purple jewelry. And I even have a bright purple turban going on here. So I am working that feminine energy. And I'm actually, it's one of the things you can tell I'm kind of excited about. I'm a little petrified, like, okay, this big hairy chest is going to be hanging out. But I'm like, I can't wait because I'm just like, I am cutting loose and I'm letting myself just have some fun. And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful energy when we cut ourselves loose to these things. So, speaking of cutting loose,
Mhm.
I'm going to invite you guys to go cut loose with Court because you've got a couple of more things coming up. Well,
Yeah.
like yet in 25 and then 26, things are starting to lay the groundwork. I want you all, if you feel the urge, to please give into the urge and go spend some time with Court at some of his events. So, what do you got lined up for us here, man?
Yeah, so I'm doing Connect for the second time this year, December 4th through the 7th in Joshua Tree. It's a 4-day event. There's tickets that you can stay on property with us, and then there's also tickets if you want to stay off property and just come for each day. The retreat center is actually in Pioneer Town, which is a little bit higher elevation than Joshua Tree. It's a beautiful, beautiful time to be in
Mm-hmm.
the desert. We've got a pool, heated pool, jacuzzi. It's just an incredible property that I have access to. And yeah, it's going to be 4 days of exploring erotic connection and brotherhood and different portals into pleasure and connection. Um, and some of them are edgier than others, and it's like a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah. And then you got stuff coming up in 2026 too. You got a retreat in
Yeah.
Mexico and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, so I actually have a retreat in October, but it's sold out. It's a medicine and eros retreat. It's exploring psychedelics and erotic, which I might end up doing again next year, but we're going to kind of see how this one goes first. But I'm offering a shadow retreat in Joshua Tree in April. And this is really exploring elements of our shadow and how can we bring that into erotic space and play with it, which I did it last year. It was super rich and looking forward to doing it again. And then I'll offer Sacred again, which is the retreat I just did last month, but in Mexico in
Very
October.
nice.
And we'll culminate with the celebration of Day of the Dead. So
very cool.
yeah.
Well, lots of good stuff. And trust me, guys, if you're listening to this, you are in amazing care and hands with Court and his facilitation team. I thoroughly enjoyed it, learned so much. And again, I came like, okay, I'm just going to be the observer so I can like really talk about this. And I'm so glad I stepped deeper than just the observer into this because I don't think I would have had quite the experience. The beautiful thing was, some of you heard when, I did the podcast afterwards about this, but my husband was supposed to go. He got sick, couldn't go. And I know that was exactly what was supposed to happen, because I think if he had been there, it would have been a completely different experience. It probably would have been just as beautiful, but in a different way. Yeah. So please give yourself the gift. The location is amazing and gorgeous. I didn't stay on property. I had a great experience, but definitely, if you're not going to stay on property, sign up for the food, pay the extra and get the meals.
Actually, I'm not doing separate food this year. We're just
okay, cool. Okay, very good. Yeah. Then go for it, guys, because you will love the ability to be right there present every step of the way. And it is a beautiful location. And it was chilly when we were there a couple of days, but we were all still in the pool. We were all in the pool still. It was
we heat that pool. We got a 95.
Yes. And it is great to be kind of chilly. Actually, I think we only had one day the first day was really chilly, and then the other days we were like, cool, let's go get in the pool. But anyway, well, Court, I love you, man. I love the work you do. I'm a big supporter. And guys, whatever you need to do, if this feels like a calling to you, please go to Court. The Body Vox is the place where you can hit everything. Join his community too. I know you're really working on building that community up. I love seeing the posts every once in a while. I still try to hop in there. I have a reminder, Court, so I'm going to tattletale on myself. A reminder like every Friday, go in and post something in Court's thing, and I get busy. But I do love seeing the posts. I love the other guest facilitators that you bring in, like you did with me. I learned so much from each and every one of them. So
thank you.
But thank you for what you do and what you're doing in the world to help us all navigate these crazy, chaotic times. So
same, my friend. Same.
Yeah. Very good. All right, guys, go out and have a wonderful week and dive in, and we will see you in just another week with another podcast. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
That's a wrap for 40 Plus. Gay men, gay talk, where size doesn't matter. We drop our bullshit, get over our screwed up fears, make bold moves, and live life without apologies. Don't forget to join us on Facebook at 40 Plus, Gay Men, Gay Talk, where the conversations continue.